The show where you can ask me anything that you like about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So, this is the show where you can ask all of your questions about politics, and nobody is going to judge you or roast you or try to make you feel bad for your political opinions or what you know or what you don't know. So, you don't got to worry about getting judged on your political thoughts or knowledge here. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. What's up, Max? What is up, Willie? Good to see you again. New profile picture. That's pretty cool. All right, to everybody else, welcome. My name is Jared Berenstein. I'm here to answer your questions about politics. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, something on the outskirts. I do not judge. I do not roast. I do not debate. I do not fight. I'm not here to name call. You're not going to see any of that here on my live stream. I know there's a lot of really popular shows out there where Democrats and Republicans fight amongst themselves and call each other names. That is not what we do here. This is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions about politics. There's a lot of misinformation and propaganda out there running around rampant, so this is where you can come with, we can all try to figure out what's actually going on. We can, try to get back to a shared reality once again. Michaela Meme, good to see you again. I'm doing pretty good. Autumn says, what are the chances we overturn the previous Roe versus Wade decision? So the chances are entirely up to us, Autumn. Like, if we do the work of electing people who understand how damaging the Dobbs decision was, then we will be able to overturn the Dobbs decision. But, there's nothing sort of like inherent for that to happen. It's people like you and me being able to get that work done, and not only getting out there and voting ourselves, but convincing other people to get out there and vote as well. Musking, thank you so much for helping me reach my first gift goal of the day. Autumn says, I feel so smart. I'm sure you're smart. Okay, let's see here. I forgot to do a bunch of things before I started my stream. What's up, Triska? Good to see you again. And to everybody else, welcome to Ask Me Anything About Politics. My name is hold on a second. Willie said, did you see Virginia's former lieutenant governor unalived his wife and himself afterwards? No, I didn't see that. Oh boy, that's terrifying. What a fucking sad story that is. D. Scott says, you've been hiding. Did your wife have the baby? No, my wife didn't have the baby. I got banned from TikTok Live for the entire week, basically, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They said for hate speech, which I find completely baffling. The only thing that I could think might have happened is I used a word that rhymes with the R word that sometimes the right says to the left that starts with lib. And so I think they interpreted that as being hate speech. And, obviously that's not fair or accurate. But, what are you going to do when social media platforms are owned by right-wing psychopaths? Then they have the option of taking left-wing streamers and political activists off of their platforms whenever they like. Alrighty. Autumn says, when are you coming to DC? I don't have any plans in the near future, Autumn. Okay. Big Boy Job Parker, good to see you again, says, what do you think the next chapter of the GOP post-Trump looks like? Probably a bunch of people who, I think it's probably going to be like Tucker Carlson. Like, it's going to be the exact same wing of, soft white supremacy and isolationism that's sort of like hiding the agenda of just like being a tool of the billionaire class going forward. Let's see here. Pont says, are you a leftist or a liberal? I think I'm a leftist, but I'm sure some leftists would call me a liberal. User a bunch of numbers says, what's wrong with Democrats? I mean, the Democratic Party has some problems, but I think it's still way better than the Republican Party. V says, do you still dislike Ramsey Robinson? He has released great statements. He is nowhere near, I don't know if it's a he or she even, but they are nowhere near polling where they need to be. They need to drop out immediately. Autumn says, do you think everything that is happening in DC is necessary to keep DC safe. I don't know what you mean by what's happening in DC. Westside says, why do so many Americans consider mainstream European Asian policies as communist? Because we've been brainwashed, because there's been a massive disinformation campaign, propaganda campaign perpetuated by the billionaire class to convince people that when the government takes money from the rich and uses that to help everybody else, then if there's something wrong with that, like that's communism, I guess. It's pretty infuriating to think of how successful they've been. When you have billions of dollars, you're able to get a lot of really nefarious stuff done, unfortunately. Michaela Meme says, do you think people judge a whole country because of the government too much and should know the difference between the people and the government? I think so. I'm generally, I would say that I'm extremely forgiving of the voting base and very unforgiving of the people who are actually in charge. But yeah, I do think that we talk about, Israel as though every single person in Israel is doing the crimes of the Israeli government. Triska, Muzzking, and Aaron, thank you so much for helping me reach my second gift goal of the day. Iron Tank has pointed out that I only have 67 viewers right now. So I don't think that's a productive comment, Iron Tank. I don't really do this for viewers. I do this because this is the work of communicating to people. But if you're just gonna, cast aspersions, you can leave whenever you like. Sanjo says, 6-7. That can't possibly be it. Okay. Sanjo says, U.S. Navy destroyer has sunk a Chinese oil tanker. The Strait of Hormuz sources say. I haven't seen that reporting. If so, that would be psychotic. Iron Tank says, not my intention. Oh, you were just doing 6-7, Iron Tank? V says he wants to work towards a planned economy and completely divest from Israel as government, unlike Democrats. Yeah, I don't care, V. Whoever he is not going to win. This race is between Katie Porter and Tom Steyer and the two Republican candidates. So everybody else needs to drop out. That's like the end of the story. Dr. Yeast Infection says, should we make incontinence great again? I don't think so. Internet LARP Anonymous says, what are your thoughts on the dissent right? Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens. So I think it's really important to recognize that talking heads and politicians on the right are fundamentally, like at their base, they are full of shit. They're basing their political ideology on flaws and lies. And so even when somebody like Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Nick Fuentes does the accurate thing of pointing out missteps by the Trump administration and, ways in which we are wasting human life and money and time and energy and not solving the problems that and breaking their promises, they are fundamentally still there to cut regulations for giant corporations, cut their taxes, remove power from the working class. If you're poor, if you're struggling, that's your fault. Yeah, it is a bad political philosophy that is not rooted in facts. Okay, but I'm glad that they're doing it at least, fight. I love it when the right fights amongst themselves. Michaela Means, do you think Democrats will win in 28 because what Trump has done and betrayed the American people, etc.? I think that Democrats have a really good chance in 2028. We're way too far away from that. I'm also more focused on winning in 26 before I even start thinking about 28. But yeah, I think that if you were trying to design a administration to destroy a political party, you would do exactly what Trump is doing. Daniel says, thoughts on Rubio. Rubio is empty. He is substanceless. He will do whatever it takes for him to retain power. He wants to be president, and he will whatever D he has to. He will betray whatever principle he had in the past. Like, he has zero value. Let's see here. BitNevo says, the more I look into events, the more it looks like Israel did 9/11. Financial crisis, maybe JFK too. BitNevo, a lot of that is not accurate. And so please don't put anti-Semitic conspiracy theories on my live stream. Price says, what will happen to gas prices? I do not believe that anything has happened over the past month to lower gas prices. So I think we're just going to see them steadily increase as time goes by. All right, Cflon says, I've heard a lot of Dems say they would vote for Rubio. I find that very hard to believe. Cflon, I find that very hard to believe. Emmeline says, thoughts on Pete this morning? Hegseth? I haven't seen what he did this morning. Mr. Soup says, do you think UBI will exist in the next 10 years? It will if we do the work of making it happen. So the billionaire class does not want UBI to be a thing. They want the working class to be struggling. They want it to be Thunderdome in the working class. Chili William Muzking, thank you so much for helping me reach my third gift goal of the day. So anyway, the billionaire class is gonna fight tooth and nail to make sure that we never get universal basic income, because they don't care if we are struggling. They would prefer it if we struggle, because when we struggle, we don't have time to do things like vote or get an education or form unions or protest or strike or anything like that. We can't. When we're desperate, we can't really be picky about what kind of jobs we take. We can't really, say, F this job, I'm out of here when you're desperate. And so UBI is an attempt to solve that problem. If we, the American people, are suddenly in a position where, because of AI and mechanization, there are like 90% fewer jobs than there were before, the money that the billionaire class, quote unquote, saved by replacing all of their workers with AI and shit like that money then should go into universal basic income, but they don't want that. They want to keep that money. So they are selfishly going to throw us to the wolves and tell us that if we are still struggling, even though there's only 5 jobs available now, that's somehow our fault. Chili Willy, Triska, Muzz King, and MX Leo, thank you so much for helping me reach my first finger hearts goal of the day. Okay. Spanish Pipe Dream says, Pete quoted Samuel L.'s monologue from Pulp Fiction during Mass, thinking it was a real Bible verse. I mean, I'll be real. I thought it was a real Bible verse also. The facts, I was today years old when I learned that it was not. But yeah, I think that there's way bigger things to be upset about regarding Pete Hegseth. You should not be giving those kinds of speeches to the military, where you're saying that this is the holy war that we're in, that we're bringing about the rapture because of this. Like, there have been so many whistleblowers talking about how, these speeches are fundamentally against what the military is supposed to be. It's psychotic. Cflon says, there's my issue. I could vote for the right Dem, but no way a Dem votes for Republican. Cflon, I can understand how that sentence specifically might make it seem as though Democrats are unfairly not considering Republican candidates. But I would ask you, Cflon, like, what has the Republican Party done for us to consider them? They have been so aggressively anti-us for the last 50 years. They have cut taxes for the rich, and at the same time, they have cut programs that are supposed to help the rest of us. And they have done it time and time again. And they're getting worse. They're getting worse every single decade. Where Reagan was worse than Nixon, and W. Bush was worse than Reagan, and Trump is worse than W. So it's like, you're asking me to consider voting for Marco Rubio as a way of saying, like, I'm open-minded about it. Like, no, that is a dude who's going to fight for all of the things that I care about. Like, show me a single Republican candidate for president who is not psychotic. Ben Egan says, do you think Trump will finish his term? I have no idea. He's got a really unhealthy lifestyle, but at the same time, pieces of shit tend to live forever, Dr. Yeast Infection says, who's on Trump's diaper duty for his incontinence? I've got no idea. Mihu says, I don't support Trump no more ever since his beef with the Pope. So also with the 1 billion Catholics. So you've been a Trump supporter the entire time that you've been a regular in my life, Mihu? I didn't know that. And I'm so glad that you felt welcome to stick around. Steve Lon says, I can see good that Dems do, but you think Republicans do nothing good. I don't think that Republican politicians have done nothing good over the past 50 years. But I have seen them shoot America in the foot for their own benefit and for the benefit of their party. And that is a deal breaker for me. It is a deal breaker for any political party who is allowing the current president of the United States to have a cryptocurrency and sell political pardons and launch an illegal war that is wasting taxpayer dollars and wasting lives and doing war crimes off the coast of Venezuela. Like, there are so many things about the Trump administration that every single Republican should be standing up against. They're not doing their job in Congress. So yeah, I gotta tell you, Cephalon, like that ship has sailed so long ago, and it is just picking up steam. I am open to an argument, but I would be shocked. I would be shocked if anybody would be able to convince me. Cephalon says the current administration is not conservative Republican. It's something different. Well, Cephalon, who is in charge of the party? Who is currently sitting in those seats? It is all Republican politicians who purport to be conservatives. That voter base is not going anywhere anytime soon. Chili Willy, D Scott, Muzz King, MX Leo, thank you for helping me hit my second finger hearts goal of the day. All right, finger hearts. Yeah, Cephalon, what are we talking about here, my guy? What is the ethos? Because I don't see the Republican Party, the platform of the Republican Party, or any of the politicians. And I got to be real, I find every single elected Republican and the Republican Party leadership to be complicit in the sins of this Republican Party. Like, I gotta be real, Cephalon. I find it a little rich to try to suggest that Trump is not the Republican Party. I am going to lose my mind if, when Trump is gone, any of these Republicans can then claim that they did not support this or they did not allow this to happen. Matt says, have you seen the Danish election? I have not. Joel says, conservatism is an ideology, not a party. I believe that's accurate. Cephalon, so what are you suggesting? And you know that I love you. I'm just, I'm a little spicy today because my live stream was unjustly removed for the last couple of days. Mihu says, I was basically for 4 years. I'm still right-wing, but not a Trump supporter. Well, how come you're still right-wing, Mihu? Taylor B says, did you see Israel strike the paramedics in Lebanon? I didn't see that specifically. I know that that's something that Israel does, and so I'm just like, yeah, just put it on the fucking pile. The massive fucking list of issues that I have with the Israeli government, Matt says, what party are you voting for? Democrats up and down the ballot. Denum Gene says, thoughts on extreme left views. I personally drifted away from them and became more libertarian. I mean, the libertarian philosophy, it doesn't really work, Denu. Like, I can give you a bunch of examples of it not working. Additionally, if you read the book Dark Money, you see that the libertarian movement was basically started by the billionaire class so they could keep more of their ill-gotten gains. But I think that you can find examples of individual people in the left-leaning space saying things that are a little cuckoo bananas, but the Democratic Party itself is not too far to the left. And I struggle to think of an extreme left-wing policy that I do not find completely reasonable, like universal basic income, universal health care, etc. Matt says, do you like the New York mayor? Yes. Den Namujin says, to be clear, when I say libertarian, I mean like John Locke. Can you expand on that? What's up, Nat Cat? Good to see you again. Reed Michael says, use corporations and our billionaire class versus the global monarch wealth expansion. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Like, U.S. corporations and our billionaire class is the global monarch wealth expansion. Do you not believe so, Reed? Kimberlina says, what are libertarian views? Libertarian views are like, there should be no government. We should not have to pay any kind of taxes. Like, the free market can handle all that shit. Let's see. Mihu says, it's just one wrong politician, not a whole ideology, political quadrants. I completely disagree with that, Mihu. Like, if you look at Bush, if you look at Reagan, like, it's a lot. There's a lot there to criticize and dislike. I would love to hear an argument for conservative ideology that has not been debunked time and time again. Tyler B says, it's just insane. Like, why is the UN or anyone doing anything about these war crimes? I wonder how much power the UN has to stop it. But, I believe that if we're looking at America, the responsibility of stopping this is with the Republicans because they are in charge of Congress. They are in charge of the White House. They are in charge of the judiciary. They have a supermajority on the Supreme Court. So all of this is their fault. And I will not allow them to pretend like they did not allow this to happen in the future. Abe, Democrat or Republican? Democrats. Bubble says, you can tell this guy's not Republican because he still has his hairline. That's pretty funny. I don't know how accurate that is, though. Jack Fisher says, I would love to see a third party more popular at this point. The only way a third party is going to make headway in America is with ranked choice voting. And the only way to get ranked choice voting, Jack, is to vote for Democrats. Denmu Jean says, and the reason I drifted from extreme left views is due to the practicality of a lot of the policies. So you believe that far left policies are impractical. I disagree with that. Nat Cat says, I would love to see the Dems become the conservative party left populists create the new left wing. I love that too, Nat Cat. Mihu says, that's the people, not politics. Also, I could say you're wrong for being left wing because of Mao. I completely disagree with that, Mihu. Like, I feel like we're kind of talking past each other right now. Like, the Republican Party has cut taxes for the billionaire class every single time they've been in charge. The Democratic Party has increased taxes on the billionaire class every time that they have been in charge. I think that is a fundamentally that is the fundamental difference between the two political parties. So what is it that you find to be either attractive about the Republican Party or not attractive about the Democratic Party? Big Politics says, do you think that the left and the right work for the American people? I mean, if you're talking about the political parties, the Democratic Party does a lot for the American people. The Republican Party works exclusively for the billionaire class. Denmu Jean says, I like the idea of socialism, but also I think that capitalism won. I mean, I don't think that this is about winning or losing. We have the ability to change things going forward. We can adjust the system that we have. We don't have to give up and say that capitalism now owns everything. So what the fuck are we going to do? All right. Reed Michael says, not when the waste, fraud, and abuse goes to enriching European royal family wealth expansion. That seems a little conspiracy theory-y to me, Reed Michaels. Nick says, Berenstein Bears. That is a property that shares my name. That is accurate. Warm Toast says, why should people who worked for the most money be punished for being successful? So Warm Toast, I gotta be real. I do not think that you care about the real answer to that question. But if you do really care about the answer to that question, let me know. For anybody who does want me to answer that question, let me know. But I refuse to engage with people who are just here to try to own a lib. Andrew LOL says, do you think Russia should still be sanctioned? Oh, yeah, 100%. Mihu says, I don't know much about U.S. politics. I'm from Poland, and in Poland they have different politics. Oh, okay. Well, I can't speak to what's going on in Poland. I can only tell you what's going on over here. Jethro Bush says, you don't know the answer. Oh, no, I do. Let's see here. Denmuji says, I should rephrase. Communism lost and capitalism won. Socialism is more feasible. Again, Denmu, I think that you are being too myopic about the definitions of those terms. Like, if I'm telling you that we should have universal basic income and universal health care, are you going to tell me that we shouldn't because, quote unquote, communism lost and capitalism won? Like, that seems to be really obtuse to me. Akshay says, thoughts on Mondani's tax policy he's implementing for properties that aren't in use? I'm for it. SpongeBob says, thoughts on Canada maybe joining the EU? I'm for it. Fanboy says, New York is fucked up now. No, it's not. New York is one of the best places. Okay, Megalodon Corpse says, Republicans are communists, hence Trump used government to buy Intel shares. Yeah, that is 100% accurate. Spyro says, do you think Russia should remain sanctioned? I already answered that one. Yes, I do. Denmu says, no, I think that is a feasible policy. I'm more referring to socialism and communism as a whole. Well, I think critically, Denmu, that the left wing in America is not advocating for that. Like, maybe there are specific people who are advocating for that, but the people at the very top of the food chain in democratic policies, either elected politicians or talking heads or whatever, all of them are saying, tax the rich, universal health care, universal basic income, let's keep pollution out of our water and our food, things like that. You know, but then people on the right say that means that you're communist, that means that you're socialist, and those ideologies don't work, so we're not voting for you guys. Okay, Big Iris says the USA is currently in a two-party tyranny system. That's kind of true, Big Irish, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that that's 100% true. Tyler B says, Jarrett, would you mind explaining it to me? It does seem like doctors, etc., get punished for earnings. Okay, excellent question, Tyler B. So there are certain people who do incredible work, and we do not pay them what they are worth. So doctors, teachers, firefighters, none of them are getting paid as much as hedge fund managers, not monarchs, monopolists like Jeff Bezos, stuff like that, techno-fascists like Elon Musk. Like, they are making so much more money than the people who are doing the work that we want to be rewarding in this country. So when I say tax the rich, I'm not saying like, this doctor saved 10 lives today. He's fucking elbow deep in livers that he's trying to fix. I'm not saying tax that guy. I'm talking about the dudes who have like 5 yachts and 10 mega mansions and shit like that. There is no justification for a human being having as much money as Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Like, there's no justification for it. They did not work $200 billion worth. They have not done $200 billion worth of goods in this country or in the world. The reason why they were able to accumulate that amount of money was because of gaming the system, was because of a system that was rigged in their favor against the working class. I can go into more detail there if you like. Let me know. Denmu says, host, to be clear, I'm a Democrat and I studied Marx. I understand the term socialism and communism. I mean, so how are you a libertarian then, Denmu? Like, I find, like we're arguing semantics. Like, what's going on here? Thank you, Tyler B. Mihai says, bro, can you answer my question? I texted you. Let's see here, Mihai, looking for your question. Scrolling up, looking for Mihai's question. Still don't see it. Mihai, where's the question? Mihai asked. Where is the question? Mihai asked. Still don't see it. Still don't see it. Mihai, looking for your question. Maybe put it in again instead of just demanding that I answer a question that I have not been able to find. Female Foxy says, universal healthcare will raise taxes exponentially. So Female Foxy, that is inaccurate. Universal healthcare will save money for everybody except for the billionaire class because we will not have to pay for insurance. What we're going to be paying more of in taxes will be made up for and more by how much we are not spending in insurance. So if you're spending $10,000 a year in healthcare, and that goes away, like you no longer have to spend that money anymore, but now I have to spend $2,000 extra dollars in taxes, like you're saving $8,000 basically. Okay, Jen, I'm libertarian because I view socialism and communism as whole ideologies are too hard to implement. So your libertarianism is based entirely on not liking socialism and communism, or not thinking that they're too hard to implement. Like, what do you like about it? What do you like about being libertarian, Denmu? Foishka says, fuck all billionaires, no ethical billionaires, 100% agree. Scott Clara says, we have the most expensive healthcare and drugs in the world. That's 100% accurate. What's up, JP? Good to see you again. Mikhail says, should America make their taxation similar to European? Yes, 100%. Let's see here. V says, would you ever vote Green or California peace and freedom in the future? No, V, no. Like, this is our main argument, me and you, V, is you have to vote for people that are going to win. Otherwise, you are throwing your vote away. And honestly, I find you very sus that you are constantly advocating for political parties that are only spoiler candidates. All right, Mihai says, opinion about Trump. Trump is corrupt, incompetent, worst president of all time. Not really great intellectually, etc. Jen Moose is a libertarian view. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, do you believe that we should get rid of taxes, Denmu? Because that is fundamental to the libertarian view. Alrighty, let's see here. Alrighty. Okay. Mihai says, have you seen my message? Yes, and I answered it. Kimberlina says, not really great intellectually. I'm just trying not to get banned or reported again, Kimberlina. Carla says, how do we get out of the current mess we're in? Excellent question, Carla. So here's what we do. We all have to do the work. I'll tell you what the work is, but think about it like this. There are still good people in the government. There are still good people in the Department of Justice, but they do not have the resources or the political power to fix what is currently wrong. And so we have to help them. The advantage that we have over the billionaire class is that there's a lot more of us. And so when we do the work, we win. So what is the work? The work is striking, protesting, boycotting, putting political pressure on politicians, business leaders, corporations, recruiting, organizing, convincing, talking to people in real life, joining organizations that are already doing this great work, like Indivisible, Run for Something, Vote Save America, or Swing, or I think Swing Left is one that's doing Ground Truth that I like so much. If you ever like, I want to do something to help and you don't know what to do, click on the link in my bio, go to my Discord channel. There's a thread called The Work that has all those things that I just suggested. And you can even reach out to me personally. Like, my DMs are open. You can email me through my website. You can hit me up on my Discord channel. I want to be a resource for people to be able to do this kind of work, to be able to help, to be a part of the solution. And so if there's some way that I can do that for you, let me know. The Notorious Max says, who is winning the war? Iran, without question. Iran, China, and Russia are winning the war. Mikhail Meme says, what's the worst Democrat in your opinion? Oh, probably like Chuck Schumer or John Fetterman, stream's not displaying YouTube comments today. Interesting. Oh, yeah, that does happen sometimes. That's really weird. Am I getting the YouTube comments? I don't think I am getting the YouTube comments. Oy, 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 oy. All my friends over on YouTube are getting ignored today. My massive apologies to all y'all. All right. Flamingo Mo says, Swalwell is pretty bad. I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, if you're doing crimes, if you're doing grapes, then yeah, you're bad. Let's see if I can find some of these live comments that I've been ignoring. Anybody here? Bottle Brush Boy and John Abbott and Robert Castro. I'm used to the ignored status. My apologies. What's up, Average Joe? Good to see you again. All right. Bottle Boy says, do you believe we are an occupied country? And Bottle Boy says, if you are for either party, you are a moron. And then he said, you suck. So, well, I don't feel too bad about ignoring your comments then. Alrighty. Average Joe says, did you see the results of yesterday's Senate and House votes? I believe you're referring to trying to stop sending more money and weapons to Israel. If so, let me know. Carmine says, no comments at all. No, we had somebody named Bottle Brush Boy who, I don't know, just based on the things that he said, I'm like, I don't really care for that. Let's see here. And then we got John Abbott. Okay. All right. Classical liberalism. That's what I believe in, not libertarianism. I got confused. Oh, okay, dead move. All right, no tea, no shade. V says, I mean, though, like in the future, after these parties grow more, even if you vote Dem this year. Yeah, V, if we had ranked choice voting, then I would not vote exclusively for the Democratic Party. I would vote for the politicians that I liked the best. But in a system that we have right now, the only legitimate vote that you cast is either for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Spyro says, I've been watching your lives for a while. Why the U.S. only have two parties? Because we don't have ranked choice voting. That's it. And so the two main political parties are so ascendant at this point that there's no way for another party to be competitive. At least not at the moment. Not without a ton of work and a ton of time and energy. Denmu says, apologies again, y'all. I am young and I'm trying to learn about politics. No tea, no shade. Denmu Jeans, so happy that you are here. You are welcome. I hope you come back time and time again. Kimberlina says, how would ranked choice work with the primary? Same as it works in the general. You vote for your number 1 pick, you vote for your number 2 pick, you vote for your number 3 pick, and then, people that count the votes, they kind of ascribe a certain number of points to every single ballot, and then, whoever wins. Okay, let's see here. Female Fox says, if Swalwell is bad, what is Trump? There's no word for what Trump is. It's so far below bad. All right, Lee Conlon says, what is your opinion on the Irish people protesting fuel prices? I mean, I don't know too much about what's going on in Ireland, but people have the right to protest, and I think that they should, 100%. If there are things that their government is not doing that they should be doing, then protest. V says, isn't that like a dictatorship? Would you agree 2 parties with very similar views, only options? The 2 political parties in America do not have very similar views. Like, that is a wildly inaccurate statement, V. Denmu says, thoughts on the Electoral College? I personally do not like it. I also do not like it, Denmu. And I think it is really critical that we mention this, Denmu. Do you know about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, Denmu? God damn, I hope you don't. I would love to let you know about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. You're going to have a better fucking day when I tell you about this. If you die and you don't, excellent. I'm so happy to hear this. All right. So the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is an agreement that states are making, that they're signing on to basically say that they will give their state electors to whoever wins the popular vote. If we get 271 electoral votes to agree to be a part of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, we have effectively eliminated the Electoral College. And a bunch of states have already signed up. Ask me how many electoral votes have already committed or in the process of committing to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Ask me. How many? 269. Nice. So we need... Oh, no, sorry. It's 267. It's 267. So we only need a single state that has more than 3 electoral votes to sign on to the National Popular Vote Interstate. We are so unbelievably fucking close to completely eliminating the Electoral College. So I made a little list, completely this is not a complete list of states that have not signed on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. A lot of solidly red states have not signed on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact because Republicans get an outsized advantage from the Electoral College. But there are some states here that we could 100% get on board with it, Do you live... Sound off in the comments if you live in either Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, or New Hampshire. Let me know. Let me know if you live in any of those states, because those are states that have not signed on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. They have not even started the process of signing on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. All right, Aaron Gregory, get on the phone. Call your reps. Tell them that you want North Carolina to be on the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Boz Q, call up your reps. Tell them, I want Wisconsin to be a part of the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Tag your it. Call up your reps. Tell them, I want Arizona to be a part of the National Interstate Compact. Zero Toxic says, you're not even close. Electoral College will never get eliminated because this is all a lie he's telling. So none of this is inaccurate, Zero. I do not care for people calling me a liar, so you can either ask a question or you can leave. Damien says, just turned 18 and in Ohio, should I register to vote? Absolutely. Valetha Sim says, it has passed one chamber in Nebraska. I don't remember if Nebraska was on my list of states that are in the process. Warm Toast says, Libertarian Party all the way, to be honest. So libertarianism does not work, Warm Toast. The people who... The places that have tried it have gotten overrun by bears. Also, it is a fake political party created by the billionaire class so that they won't have to pay taxes. Jimmy Jack says the Electoral College is genius and an amendment for a very good reason. I disagree, Jimmy Jack, and I've been seeing you spreading misinformation about the Electoral College in the comments. So you are in question jail. Ask a question, or I'm going to boot you. Rocholi says, what type of politics? Just the USA? USA is my area of expertise, Rochili. But you can ask me about other countries. I might be able to answer. Okay, let's see here. Grimicus. Yeah, Grimicus. Yeah, sometimes Restream does that. I think I just need to like stop it and restart it. Michaela Meme says, is learning about politics as a 16-year-old good in your opinion? Yes, 100%. Even earlier, I would say. JP says, last time Democrats had a filibuster-proof majority and president was in 1969. What about the first, 8 months of the Obama administration? I guess that's not a filibuster-proof majority so much as a... No, yeah, Obama had it, JP. Obama had it, but he only had it for 8 months, and then we passed the Affordable Care Act with that. Average Joe says, yes, bombs and bulldozers in the Senate, war powers in the House. Yeah, I saw that there were 7 Democrats who voted with the Republicans, and I'm like, yeah, fucking primary the fuck out of every single one of those Democrats. Denmu says, do you have a degree in political science? No, I am self-taught. User23 says, just got here, and I would love to see the Electoral College go away. What state do you live in, User23, if you mind me asking? Jimmy Jack says, I would be very pissed if my vote and country was won by a Republican in the electoral votes. That's not a question, Jimmy Jack. That's your final warning. Rochili says, what do you know about BRICS? Oh, very little. User number 23 says, I live in Indiana. Is Indiana on my list? So user 23, have you ever called your representatives? Let me know. Female Fox says, any decent Republicans left? You have to judge every Republican on a sliding scale. So, Thomas Massie is doing the work of trying to stop the war in Iran and trying to get the Epstein files out there. But he still voted for the big, beautiful bill. He still confirmed all of Trump's psychotic fucking nominees. He has voted for cutting taxes for the rich. He will continue to vote for cutting taxes for the rich. So, yeah, Thomas Massie's okay, I suppose. But, I don't understand how you can have all the information in the world, enough of a moral foundation to want to release the Epstein files and want to stop the war in Iran, and yet you're still caping for fucking trickle-down economics. How do you do that? All right, user a bunch of numbers says, yes, I have. Well, call up your reps and ask them if Indiana is in the process or signing up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And if they're not, tell them that you want your state to sign up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Triska, Kim Buckman, D. Scott, Muzz King, and MX, thank you so much for helping me reach my 3rd Finger Hearts goal of the day. That means that we are on to High Bears, which are my favorite. And if we get 3 High Bear goals finished, then I'll do the Karis Nemec manifesto speech from the first season of Andor. Iran says, do you hate any Democrats and like any Republicans? If you're asking me, I don't really hate anybody. And as far as any politician that I quote unquote like, I don't think that we should be lionizing these people. I don't think that we should, they're not perfect, and so I like certain politicians, but if it comes out, I liked Eric Swalwell, but then I learned some things about him and I'm done. But yeah, I like that, Thomas Massie is voting against Donald Trump. I like that, what's his name? Tom Thune, who's in charge of the Senate, is shooting down the filibuster reform and the SAVE Act. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking up against Donald Trump. And as far as Democrats that I don't like, probably Chuck Schumer's at the top of my list. Anybody who is continuing to equivocate about what the government of Israel is doing, anybody who continues to vote for sending more money and weapons to Israel, those are bad Democrats, in my opinion. Lady says, do you think Trump will finally be impeached? So he was already impeached, Lady. He was not removed from office because, again, Republicans are completely feckless. If Democrats retake the House, he will 100% be impeached again. There is a small chance that he would be removed from office at that point. That depends on how many seats that the Democrats are able to win in the midterms. Jimmy Jack says, Hillary won popular votes with only 407 counties of... Yeah, that's not a question, Jimmy Jack. Jimmy Jack, this is your 3rd and final warning. You are in question jail. You either ask a question or you leave, Jimmy Jack. Shark on Land says, what president is responsible for releasing the Epstein files? I know you want me to say Donald Trump, Shark on Land, but that is not true. What Donald Trump has done is sign the legislation to release the Epstein files, but then not actually release the Epstein files. Michael Matter says, Fetterman won't impeach him. Dems need a lot of seats in the Senate. That is accurate. Shark on Land says, LOL mogged. Nobody is mogging this face. I'm fucking 10 out of 10. Face card never declined. Gibby says, he's told everyone not to release them. Why do you think everyone is getting fired and we're in Iran? That is 100% accurate, Gibby. Okay, Italiana says, is our state California governor's race in jeopardy? Yes. If you are able to, you should get in touch with every Democrat running who is not Katie Porter or Tom Steyer and tell them to drop out of the race. It is long past time for that to happen. Vlad the Thomas says, if there was one law you could change or implement, what would it be? That's a really good question. I don't know. There's too much. Probably make partisan gerrymandering illegal. Texan Low Key says, Joe Biden was a great president. I would say he was a very good president. I don't know if I would say great. User 23 says, didn't ask a question because you asked me a question. Sorry. Oh, you're fine. User 23. Question jail is a very specific thing. Certain people get put in question jail. Other people are allowed to make statements. V says, Hungary does not have ranked choice voting, and they did it, so why can't America go green or PSL? That I'm not really sure I know how to answer that question, V. Like these parties have been in Senate for a long time. I don't know anything about politics in Hungary. Yeah, I don't know. They are entrenched. User 23 says, do you think we will ever get rid of gerrymandering? You know, user, Jimmy Jack, congratulations. You're out of here. That was your final warning. You are out of here. How hard is it just to ask a question, guys? Okay, let's see here. User 23. So you should know, User 23, that the Democratic Party had a bill to get rid of gerrymandering, and the Republican Party filibustered it. So all these fights that are going on right now with states redistricting to sort of like cement majorities in the House, that would not be legal or happening at all right now if the Republican Party had not filibustered that law. So all we need to do to get rid of gerrymandering is just elect more Democrats. Like, that's it. And then we get rid of partisan gerrymandering. End of story. Shark on Land says, was Trump's TCJA good for American citizens? I don't know what the TCJA was. Texan Low Key says, I was waiting for you to say that Biden was a 4-year nightmare. No, he wasn't. Texan Low Key. Would you like me to tell you a bunch of really great things that the Biden administration did? Rona Beat says, why don't you like Chuck Schumer? So Chuck Schumer has done a bunch of things as senator that I think have been damaging to the Democratic Party, but also have just been like really bad decisions. The grace that I will give Chuck Schumer is that that job is really hard. Like, being able to sort of like corral both the left wing and the center wing of the Democratic Party is very difficult. And if you talk to people who work with Chuck Schumer, they will tell you that he's incredible at that and he's very good at his job. But that is not all that his job is. Part of his job is messaging, and he is a terrible messenger. He is not a good face for the Democratic Party. He is too milquetoast, and he appears to be a weenie who is not doing the work of fighting the Trump administration. That, and he has refused to do anything to put pressure on Israel to stop doing war crimes and genocide. He's continuing to vote to send money and weapons to Israel, and I find that to be unconscionable. I find that to be a massive deal breaker. Let's see here. User 23 says, what can I do in Indiana? They are blood red. I vote, call, write letters. So User 23, do you talk to people? Do you talk to your friends and your neighbors and your coworkers and your family members? You know, there's a bunch of different ways to convince people. Like, obviously you don't want to just like get into fights and debates with the people that you know, but just, you know, the work of persuading people is something that we can all do. Additionally, if you can find other people who are like you, who want to change the state government, and maybe want to change who your senators are and your representatives, linking up with them and working together can also be like a really valuable thing. If you want to talk more about this, my DMs are open. You can email me through my website. You can hit me up on my Discord channel. Links for all that stuff is in the bio. Okay, Rona Beat says contentions with Rubio. He is contentless. He is substanceless. He will do whatever it takes to retain power. He does not give a shit about his constituents. He does not have any sort of like moral foundation. He is an empty vessel. He will do whatever the base tells him to do. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, asks Shark on Land. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was a $1 trillion giveaway to the wealthy. It was a massive tax giveaway to the richest people and the giant corporations. I believe that some people who were not wealthy paid a little bit less in taxes, but what they lost by Trump and the Republican Party cutting taxes for the billionaire class is way worse than, whatever additional money they may have gotten in their tax return. Shark on Land says, why do Dean and Parker love it then? I don't know that they do. If they do, they're probably misinformed. Reform Boy says, are you left, right, or center? I am left. G. Lass says, are you a Democrat or Republican, and do you have opinions on British politics? I'm a Democrat, and my only opinion about British politics is never vote Tory, never vote Reform. Marjack says, how do you feel about term limits? I'm for them. So we don't have dinosaurs that remember the end of Jim Crow. Yeah, that were there during it. Rona Beat says, will taxing corporations create jobs and wage growth? Yes, 100%. It's a little bit of a bank shot, but here's the general philosophy, Rona Beats, is we need to infuse more capital into the poor and working class. They are struggling way too much. And so they cannot afford things. They cannot afford things that are not necessities. And at times they can't even afford those necessities. When they can afford those things, they go out and buy them. And that stimulates the economy, which creates more jobs. The more people need to buy things, the more people we need to make and sell them those things. Now, when you give tax cuts to the billionaires, they don't start new businesses. They just put that money offshore where they don't have to pay taxes, or they buy another yacht, or they buy another $1 billion penthouse mansion, or they buy another private jet. And we've seen this. Like, we know this is the case. We've been living under trickle-down economics for the past 50 years. It is not working. It will never work. There is worse income inequality now than there was during the Gilded Age, which was an era that was named after how bad the income inequality was. So how about we try the other thing? Instead, we have a lot of evidence that works. Alrighty, hey, I met my follower goal on Twitch. JP says, of course, Biden was too old when retirement age of 65 and the candidate is older than that, too old. I agree. Michaela Meme says, do you think Biden was too old to be president when he was in office? Yes, I do. Alina on the phone. Hello. What's up? We're doing good. Grimicus says, do you see that the Dems filed articles of impeachment against Hegseth yesterday? I believe they filed them against Trump as well. Average Joe says, what's with all the libertarians today? I don't know. I think they're just excited about me talking about the book Dark Money. Irishman says, why don't governments own public sectors? Because it allows them to invest in public works. So I think that there are potential issues there, Irishman. So first of all, Triska, Kim Buckman, Muzz King, D. Scott, and Brian, thank you so much for helping me reach my first high bear goal of the day. If we reach 2 more goals, then we get the Charisnemic Manifesto from Andor, everybody. All right, so what was I asking about? So there can be issues with the government investing in or owning public sectors because it eliminates the ability for us to have the freedom to enter those workspaces. Now, I agree that it would be better if the healthcare industry had to compete with government-run healthcare, or if there were, free public colleges that private colleges needed to compete with, or if there was socialized housing that, private housing companies needed to compete with. But, I do believe that Americans deserve the freedom to have other options besides government-run industries. All right, Comic Mike, term limits. I agree. Irishman hypothetically couldn't increase the economy, though, and trust in government. Yes, Irishman, but it could also be a mechanism for corruption, depending on who's in charge. If you look at like Russia and China, they own all of those industries, and all that has managed to happen is they've made Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping like two of the wealthiest, most powerful people on the planet. Tagarit says, I hate to ask you to repeat yourself, but could you go over the interstate compact thing again? I was driving. No problem, Tagarit. And with everything that I'm saying here, guys, if you ever need me to repeat things or you have questions about it later, you can always just send me a DM, or you can email me through my website, or you can hit me up on my Discord channel. I am down for answering all these questions, not on the live stream. All right. The Hib says, LOL, I can't express my question in a small sentence. I believe you can. The Hibs, I believe in you. Average Joe, what was your first question that you asked? Oh yeah, about the vote. Yeah, I answered that, didn't I? Did we talk about that? Okay, what was I saying? Tag, you're right. Okay, so National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is an agreement between the states to award their electoral votes to whoever wins the popular vote. It would essentially get rid of the Electoral College. It would make everybody's vote in America almost completely equal for president, at least. Like the Senate would still be unbalanced, the House would still be unbalanced, etc. But it would be a massive step forward in making everybody more involved in the political process. Because if you're a Republican that lives in California or you're a Democrat that lives in Alabama, your vote does not count. And I believe that that is a bad philosophy for us to have. So right now, in order for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact to get rid of the Electoral College, we would need enough states to sign up for it to equal 271 electoral votes. And right now, the number of states who have committed to that pact or are in the process of committing to that pact equal 267 electoral votes. That means we need a single state that has more than 3 electoral votes to sign up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, and then Electoral College gone. So, if you live in Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, or New Hampshire, those are not all the states that haven't signed up. Those are just a bunch that I picked. Call your reps on the phone and start haranguing them about signing up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. All right, User23 says, I'm sorry, what is that called, what you were talking about before? The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. D says, who'd you vote for? Democrats up and on the ballot. Lee Jackson says, what happened to the judges that Biden appointed? I believe they were sat, right, Lee Jackson? Like, Ketanji Brown Jackson is on the court right now. The lower courts, like the appeals court and stuff, like I'm a little less, a little less knowledgeable about that. Tag, you're it. Yes, Arizona is ripe. Arizona is prime to sign up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Alrighty. Myron Larson says, do you ever think that corruption be eliminated? I don't know if it would be like fully eliminated, but we can definitely do better than we are right now. Wandering Feanor says, where are you politically? I'm a progressive Democrat. Heather says, state reps or federal reps? I believe state reps, but I don't think it could hurt to call your federal reps. Israel Franco says, who do you like for the California governor's race? Katie Porter, but I would be fine with either Katie Porter or Tom Steyer. Johnny Taco says, and then multiple states get 0 representation and we overthrow the government. What? Johnny Taco? What are you talking about? Johnny Taco, are you trying to suggest that getting rid of the Electoral College would give 0 representation to smaller states? Because that is wildly untrue. Johnny Taco. All right, did that one already? Where am I? The Hib says, corporation plus military complex equals conquering wars. Peace equals no weapons selling, no resource, dead civilian, collateral damage. What if a battle royale with rewards for countries and leave civilians alone? Is that the comment that you wanted to... Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're asking. It seems like it's a fun question, the Hips, like not a serious question. All right, Wandering Feanor says, a progressive Democrat is what ideologically? A Social Democrats. I mean, I don't know how you define social democrats. I'm a Mamdani. I'm an AOC. I'm a Bernie Sanders. I'm a Katie Porter. I'm a Jasmine Crockett. I'm a Tallarico. Those are my politicians, and those are the progressive Democrats. Manny says, why does the left always unite with Islamists? So you probably meant unites, Manny, but the left unites with every religion, whether they are Islamists or Muslims or Jews or Christians or Catholics. I guess the big question is, why does the right always fight with whoever disagrees with them? Like, why is the right currently fighting with Catholics? Israel Franco says, have you read Mayor Mamdani's new tax on the rich law? Will it happen? I believe it will happen. I haven't dug into the details on it, but it looks great from what I have seen so far. The Hib says, I'm dead serious since the big guys in this world and some parts of the population wants war. Give them a place where they can be cavemans and leave them alone. I mean, I would love that, the Hibs. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. The reason why powerful pieces of shit do wars is because they don't actually have to go fight them themselves. Manny says, no, they unite with Islamists because they hate USA and Israel equally. No, that is not true, Manny. If you would like to be a productive part of this chat, you are not allowed to say things that are not true. So you can ask a question if you like. Otherwise, you can leave whenever you want. Lisa Galcagano says, isn't Katie Porter mean? She might be. You know, I definitely did not love that video of her yelling at her staffer to get out of her frame. But I also do not believe that that is a deal breaker. You know, I think that sometimes we judge women by too harsh of a standard. And, you know, I think she's got great policies. I think she's a great communicator. You know, and if more comes out, like if she's being so abusive to her staff, then we can primary her after she wins the governor race. Manny says, we saw it in Iran in the 70s and we see it in the West today. That's not a question. So you are out of here. Congratulations. Rich was here says, the rich also exploit war for profit. That is accurate. Olive Jen says, how do you feel about Xavier Becerra? I do not know who that is, so sorry about that. MOA1 says, what about Virginia's HB 965, which will move everyone's vote to the winner of the popular vote? That is the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, MOA1, and I have been hyping that up on the entire live stream today. So yeah, I'm about it, man. I am about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. I am all over it. All right, Irishman says, should state laws be allowed or should they respond only to government law? There's a delicate balance between state law and government law and federal law. I do think that that's a valuable distinction, but I do think that there are certain laws that should be federal as opposed to state law. Okay. Olive Jen says he's running for governor in California. Oh, then in that case, no. Thumbs down on that guy. At this point, you need to drop out of the race. You know, if we are worried about a potential of Democrats potentially getting locked out of the governor's race because there are too many Democrats running, and you are not even close to polling near Steyer or Porter, then you got to drop out of the race. 312MQ says, what about that rank term voting? What's it called to pass it again? I don't know if there's any bill right now that is going to pass ranked choice voting. I believe that there are certain states that are looking at it. You could probably get it at the state level depending on where you live. Certain states already have implemented it. They had it in New York when I was living there for, you know, a couple of elections. I believe that the DNC is considering it for the primary elections coming up. And, you know, I support that. So everybody get on the horn and yell at the DNC. Irishman says, couldn't it lead to poorly bad decisions such as the Southern state crisis in the 1950s? Couldn't what? Irishman. Yeah, I mean, it could. I think that there are bad things that happen when laws that should be state laws are federal, and when laws that are that should be federal are state. So there's bad examples of both, I think. Fiona Bien says, you said ask anything, give me an answer. What's your opinion on a United Ireland? If the people of Ireland want that, then the people of Ireland should have it. Real Benda says, did you see those two MSC cops beating up the innocent guy in the liquor store? I did not. That's a real fucking bummer. Carmine says, all you have left to do is tell people to put cameras up their butts and you're caught. Yeah, accurate as hell. Anime Jam says, your thoughts on corporatism. I don't know what that is. Moa1 says, do you think people would be happy if they voted for Harris and instead voted for Trump? So you think people would be happy if they voted for Harris? I don't know what that comment means. MOA1, let me know. Let's see here. Ms. Gonna Be Right says, Katie Porter pre-blocked my Republican partner on Twitter. I don't know if you are saying that like it's a good thing or a bad thing. Ms. Gonna Be All Right. Theo Masters says, why are you ignoring my question? Says ask you anything. I haven't seen your question, Theo Masters. Okay. Grimicus says, a federal bill to force states to do ranked choice voting would fail at the course. Section 1, Clause 4, Section 1 would stop at the same way it stopped in terms of federal elections. That is a really good point, Grimicus. Yeah, so I guess if we want ranked choice voting, we would need it statewide. Yeah, that would be difficult. That would be difficult. How would that work with the Electoral College, you know? I don't know. Okay. Moa1 says, well, the Virginia bill will move everyone's vote to the winner of the popular vote. Yes, Moa, that is accurate. Which means that if you are let's say that you are a Republican voting for Trump in the presidential election, Trump versus Kamala, but more people vote for Kamala in California, every single one of those Republican votes is thrown in the garbage. That is the current system that we have now. If we get rid of the Electoral College and we only have the popular vote, that means that a Republican vote in California is the exact same as a Democratic vote in California. And a Democratic vote in Alabama is the exact same as a Republican vote in Alabama. The Electoral College is what disenfranchises people, Moa1. KM says, what do you think of National Socialism? I believe that was the title of the Nazi Party in the 1930s and 40s. So I'm against it. Bradford Huntsman says, what if we all stopped working for corporations? Like a worldwide fuck the billionaire strike. I'm down with that, man. Let's make it happen. Theo Master says, do you believe the U.S. foreign policy since World War II has been justified? Oh, no. There's been so much bad American foreign policy since World War II. I'm sure there's been good foreign policy, but yeah, I don't. It's there's so much shit to dig through to find the good foreign policy. Like pretty much all of USAID was, you know, the majority of America's good foreign policy over the past, 80, 100 years. Moa1 says, so in 2024, everyone in Virginia would have voted Trump since he won the popular vote. No, that is inaccurate, Moa. So Trump wins the popular vote, right? If Trump had lost the Electoral College but had won the popular vote, then the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact would make it so that Virginia's electors would go to Trump. But no, it is not true to say that everyone's vote in Virginia would be turned into Trump votes. Moa1. Moa1, I have to ask you this. I have to ask you. Are you asking these questions because you legitimately do not understand how getting rid of the Electoral College would re-enfranchise every American? Or are you specifically trying to argue against it and are therefore ignoring all of the facts that I am telling you? That is my sincere question. Alrighty. Grimicus, thank you so much for manually redoing your Amazon subscription. I really appreciate that. Theo Master says, would you say that the U.S. empire has been a net good or net bad for the world? Probably net bad, probably. I'm sure an argument I'm sure an argument could be made for both sides, but without really digging into it, I probably have to say net negative. Evan Scott says, how can leftist candidates win over the populist right-wingers? I think that the things that make a right-wing person a populist are the exact same things that make a left-wing person. And so the trick is in convincing right-wing populists that the Republican Party is never going to do the economic populism that they want, and that the Democratic Party is actively trying to do what they want. Twin says higher taxes and free healthcare and education, or low taxes and pay for healthcare and education. My vote, Twin, higher taxes and free healthcare and education. Every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. KM's Hoy says, do you think counting everyone's vote is better than the Electoral College? Yes, 100%. Thank you, Twin. I believe you are based as well. All right, we're at 1 hour and 10 minutes. I gotta get out of here, everybody. I very much appreciate all of your questions and your support. Hold on a second. Rich Poor 84 says, how did you feel about Biden sending billions overseas? Biden has sent a lot less money overseas than Trump, Rich Poor. So if that's something that bothers you, I find it really sus that you are not upset about that. C6PT says, what do you think of letting all citizens vote in the primaries? All citizens can vote in the primaries. C6PT. Rich484 says, wow, yeah, did you not know that? Luca Carloni says, what do you think about communism and Thomas Sankara? That's too big of a question for now. I'm trying to wrap up. If you want to support the show financially, you can, but you do not have to. I know that we're all suffering under a cost of living crisis that Trump is actively making worse. C6PT says, only if they're registered to the party. Am I wrong? Certain states, yes, C6, but certain states have open primaries. We're allowed to vote for whoever. All right. Let's see here. If you want to support the show financially, again, you can. The mechanisms are there. You can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You can be an Amazon. You can subscribe to my Twitch channel, and if you're an Amazon subscriber, you can subscribe for free. You can send bits on Twitch. You can send gifts on TikTok. You'd be a super fan on TikTok. The mechanisms are there if you would like to utilize them. What else? Regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If there are any questions that I was not able to answer on this live stream, DMs are open. You can email me through my website. You can hit me up on my Discord channel. And other than that, guys, I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to get out of here. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for all the support. Apologies if I didn't get to your question, but feel free to shoot those questions over to me whenever, and I will answer them when I am not live streaming. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care. Bye-bye. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.